out on those issues as well.
All right, Dana, thanks so much. Fascinating insights. The House Budget Committee is ground zero in this budget fight, and I talked to one of its key members a short time ago. Congressman Tom Cole has some thoughtful ideas on what's going on right now. Take a listen. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Hey, my pleasure.
So it seems to me that this potential government shutdown right now is being driven not so much by a disagreement about numbers. We're kind of close on that, but it's being driven by the so-called riders that are being added into this debate, these changes in policy about abortion and EPA regulation that the Republican Party is insisting upon. So here's the question. Is this the right moment to be doing that? Shouldn't we just agree on the numbers and leave those issues for down the road?
Well, I actually think anytime you agree on the numbers, you decide where to spend. That's an ideological decision, a values-based decision. So I think it's appropriate to talk about them here. Now, having said that, I'd agree with your basic premise that let's get the numbers right and let's see if there's some common ground. Remember, a lot of Democrats, for instance, were very supportive on the EPA restrictions. So there's some of these riders that are very bipartisan. I think they'd be very appropriate to include in the final settlement.
Yeah, but it just seems to me that raising the issue of abortion and the scope of EPA regulation right now, when we're still trying to pass last year's budget, trying to prevent a government shutdown, is this the best moment to open up such divisive issues that, frankly, have even divided your own party, and opened up all sorts of wounds? Why not just get this deal done and understand those issues have to be dealt with later on, and this isn't the document to do it in?
Well, I think the Speaker's made it very clear. Look, his aim is not to shut down the government. It's to reduce spending. And that's first and foremost what we're trying to do here. Again, there's some policy considerations. Most of the riders that might be included are on things that, frankly, Democrats have accepted in the past, or, again, there's broad bipartisan support. But, again, I think we can find a deal if both sides will come to the table in good faith. We think we have. We did pass this, our original bill, almost 50 days ago now. We provided 2 extensions and a third today so we can continue the discussions, and our aim in all those has been to continually reduce spending but not shut down the government.
Congressman, I want to ask a question about basic fairness now, and this is a context where the top 1% of the income earners in our nation earn 25% of all income, control 40% of the wealth in the nation, and those numbers, as we all know, have been getting bigger over time. And we gave those wealthy folks, the top 2%, a huge tax break last year, extending the Bush tax cuts. Now we could call them the Obama tax cuts. In that context, the Ryan budget balances the budget. 2/3 of the cuts fall on the poor. Now, I'm not talking anything other than simple fairness now. Does it strike you that that's a fair way to go forward?
Well, remember, this is on top of an enormous expansion in discretionary spending in the last 2 or 3 years. The Obama budget raised non-defense discretionary spending by 24% in a 2-year period, and frankly over 80% if you counted the stimulus money toward that number. So we're not, asking for drastic draconian cuts. We're talking about going back to around 2008, 2007, frankly something that many American families have had to do. At the end of the day, though, I think we all agree we want to spur economic growth. We want the kind of tax system that encourages people to invest, to save, to help create jobs right here in America. I think Paul is trying to accomplish that. And again, if the president will show us what his alternative is, we might be able to find out where there's common ground. The current tax situation, we're going to remember, the president negotiated the agreement, putting it off for additional 2 years because he thought that those lower tax rates were important to economic growth. It wasn't something he wanted to do, but he actually believed that would help bring the economy back. So there's at least some thinking, I hope, on the other side that lower tax rates are an incentive for faster growth and ultimately more income over the long term.
Well, look, Congressman, that's why I said if we could close those loopholes, lower all the marginal rates, that's a great system. The devil's in the details, and some other day we'll get into which loopholes will close. But just to be clear, I was talking about the close to $1 trillion cut in Medicaid alone, which is really health care for the poor, not the non-defense discretionary. That's where the biggest cuts are coming from. Is it fair to do that to the poor when the wealthy just got a tax cut of almost that same identical amount?
Most of those cuts in Medicaid that you're pointing to are really because we don't believe in going forward with the Obamacare legislation. Most of the people, over half the people that got, quote, insurance under Obamacare got it simply because we raised Medicare eligibility rates, doubled the number of people on Medicaid. So we're not taking away money from the poor. We're not enacting a program that the president had supported and that the Democratic Congress passed. It's no big surprise that we don't believe in that program. There were no Republicans who voted for it.
Okay, I think it's been pretty clear that that's one of those pretty crisp divides out there in the political arena. Having said that, just so it's clear, if you take away and reduce those eligibility numbers, you're going to be saying to tens of millions of people, you have no way of getting health insurance, and then they won't get the health care. So that's going to be a pretty significant hit to them. Anyway, look, Congressman, I appreciate your joining us tonight. Look forward to continuing this conversation with you down the road.
Elliot, thank you. It's a privilege to be with you.
Thank you, sir. Up next, the latest from Washington, where they're running out of fingers to cross. Stay tuned.